I've had the same thought. What if you have a smaller, it's a physical location, but it's geared towards studio. It's more of a studio, and it can be used for a lot of different creation things throughout the week. But then you have a physical gathering, and small groups could go in there or whatever. But it's not like the traditional big church with a bunch of rooms or whatever, but it's more just like that studio feel. And I think that there's something to that. There's something really interesting.
I honestly think that's the future of church. There's not a lot that we actually need to do physically. If you think about it, I can have a very meaningful, repentive conversation with a pastor through Zoom. I can do Bible study through Zoom, where all of us are focused our attention, we're sharing what's going on, we're setting up a specific time to all get together. The only thing that kind of gets weird through my almost a year of experience doing this is worship and like hugging.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. This is From the Garoffice with Micah Foster. This can be seen on my YouTube channel. This can be heard on Anchor, Spotify, and so many other different sources for podcasts. And today I have a special episode for you. This is episode number 4. And I talked to Alex Dion Wilson, who used to live in Fresno where I live, but now lives in Hawaii. And he started with some friends a church outreach ministry that meets on Instagram. So they do Instagram Live, and that is a service they do for people who cannot or will not go to a physical church for a service. And so I want to share with you this conversation that I had with him. Enjoy. And so I wanted to reach out to you and have a conversation about what you've been doing, because you've been doing a lot. You know, the first time I think I saw anything from you, I was like, this guy's in Fresno, because you were in Fresno at the time. I was like, I'm in Fresno. I need to know this guy. So I think I saw a YouTube video or something first, and then I was like, what's going on with this guy? And then pretty soon you guys started Insta Church Live. And so I was like, hey, can I come watch you guys do this? Because it was so interesting to me.
Yeah, that was fun, dude.
Very simple, yet, was reaching a totally different audience than most churches are, or it was supplementing for people or whatever. So that was really interesting. So I have a video about that. It's funny because one of your old youth kids commented on it the other day. Hey, Alex used to be my youth pastor. And so
no way, that's crazy.
Kind of funny. Anyways, so but now you've moved to Hawaii. I'm wearing my Hawaii shirt right here.
Yeah, that's awesome. You gotta come visit, Micah.
I would love to. I haven't been there since I was like 10.
Come on, dude. Come stay at our house and just stay for a week. Especially right now, if you look at tickets now, tickets are so cheap, dude. Seriously. I only offer that to people in ministry that I'm friends with. So, I mean, those are my only friends anyway, but
your only issue in offering that to me is I come with 4 other people.
Oh, and they come with babysitting privileges. I'll put them to work, man.
Oh man.
So
anyways,
fun.
I appreciate that, man. And if I can make it happen, I would.
We have room. Like this room is in my garage, outside of my in my little carport. But we have a 3-bedroom, and we could throw all the kids in one room. And our master is really big, so the boys can stay with us in the master, or you and your whole family can stay in the master. There's a bathroom in there. We'll figure it out. We don't care.
I'm gonna right after this, I'm gonna go look at tickets.
Do it.
To see what's up.
When we first lived here, we had ministry couples come every other month.
Did you?
For a year and a half, our house was full. It was so fun, man. It's part of the biggest reason why we wanted to move here was to do that type of ministry.
That's
because
awesome.
I come from a house where my dad had worked too much in ministry.
Yeah.
So, and then she comes from a family where her family left ministry. So we know the importance of rest and stuff. So yeah, man, we'll talk about it later, but I want you guys to come.
So cool. Hey man, so I've had some questions, right? I want to ask you some stuff. Okay, so you guys started Insta Church Live. Tell me what prompted that starting. Why did you start Insta Church Live? And a little brief, what is that?
Yeah, we never talked about this. Or maybe we did. I was watching a John Chris video. I know there's a lot of stuff going on with him right now, but I know he's I know he's a loving guy, and I know he loves the church, and we have mutual friends, and I'm not going to go into that, but all blessings to him. And we know what it's like for the past to creep up in weird ways. So, but I was watching for one of his videos. It's called Check Your Heart. And it was a funny music video that he did with some of my friends. And I felt like watching all those Christian rappers and then watching John do his thing, like with comedy in the Christian world. I was like, these guys know what they're meant to do. Like they know their gifting and they're executing it very well. And I was like, God, I feel like I told God, I don't feel like I'm executing well what my gifting is. I know it has something
Mhm,
to do with online video and recording,
mhm,
but I don't know like how to execute that well. And 30 seconds later, he was like, I want you to do a church service on Instagram. And I was like, what? This is great. So I called a couple guys at a local church. It's called the Well Community Church.
mhm.
Micah and I know those guys over there. And I called them and I was like, hey, like, you guys want to do this? And they were like, Alex, we're pretty sure you lost your mind, but we'll just try it with you. And we're like, okay, fine. So we uh we just did it and it worked and it went crazy. And what I was thinking about were people who were sick, people with
Mhm.
atheist parents,
Yep.
and people who just weren't ready to walk into church.
Mhm.
And it was I think solely it was coming out of an area of church hurt for me, where I physically or mentally wasn't ready to go back to church. And I'd even tried a couple times, but I just felt like because I had this career online as like an online preacher and because I worked in different youth groups around the city, I felt like there was always like, and my dad is a big deal in Fresno because of the college that he worked at. I just felt like every time I walked into a church, it was like all eyes on me and everyone knew who I was. And it was just this uncomfortable feeling. I didn't feel like I could just be alone with the
Mm,
Lord. I feel like if I stepped into a church, I had to be on stage or I had to like
mhm.
do worship or I had to like go do a youth group thing. Like, I feel like I had to work. And so coming out of that, it made me think about those people too. And
Right.
that's the people who flock to us on Sundays is the people who are not ready to go to church or they have atheist parents or sick,
And
sick in the
we
hospital.
actually have friends that like go to your church, but they call our church theirs, but they never come. But they go to yours.
Well, they have to have a physical location. They have to, and that we've been in me and the board members because we're not actual we're a religious organization, but we're not an actual church 501(c)(3). But we have board members, and the board members where I have been talking about like starting a physical location that's more like a studio,
Mhm.
kind of like Jimmy Fallon meets church. So there's like a live
Yep.
audience, but we still record our services. And we've been playing with the thought because we do know there needs to be a physical place for us to
You
like
know,
all be the church.
I've had the same thought,
Yeah, it's hard.
that what if you have a smaller,
Mhm,
it's a physical location, but it's geared towards studio. It's more of
mhm,
a studio and it can be
mhm,
used for a lot of different creation things throughout the week, right?
mhm, mhm.
But then you have a physical gathering and small groups could go in there or whatever, but
Yeah.
it's not like the traditional big church, right? Or
Mhm.
big church with a bunch of rooms or whatever, but it's more just like that studio feel. And I think that there's something to that. There's something really
Yeah.
interesting about that.
I honestly think that's the future of church because we there's not a lot that we actually need to do
Mhm.
physically. If you think about it, I can have a very meaningful, repentive conversation with a pastor through Zoom. I can do Bible study through Zoom, where
Mhm.
all of us are focused our attention. We're sharing what's going on. We're setting up a specific time to all get together. We can. The only thing that kind of gets weird through my a year and like almost a year of experience doing this is worship and like hugging. It's like you worshiping across the screen is weird because there's like internet lag and like
Mhm.
different people are singing at different times of the song. And so that kind of gets weird. And then obviously there's no physical like hugging. And there's been
Mhm.
times where like uh just during quarantine, I've seen a friend and I've totally forgot like the 6 feet
Right.
thing and we hugged. And then halfway through the hug, we're like, what are we doing? But we're so glad we did. Because it was just like this like warm embrace
Right.
that is rare right now between people that you love. And there's a reason why Paul says like, greet each other with a kiss because there's a physical need that humans have to have. But for the most part, I can see churches, like some churches, not going back to the way it was before Corona
Right.
after this,
Right.
because they're going to
So
see the impact is so big.
yeah. And so my that's one of my questions is, what do you
Mhm.
think? First of all, let me just make a comment about what you just said, because I think there's something that happens when we're together physically, right? So
Yes.
it's like a piece of that incarnational ministry
Yes.
that you
Yes.
can't fully do through online means, right?
What
You
happened?
can't fully do.
Oh,
So,
I
um,
think it froze. Sorry.
oh, you got me?
Yeah, I got you. Am
Cool.
I lagging at all?
No, you're good. You're completely
Okay.
stable. It's
Okay.
just that a little thing popped up on my screen that said you're unstable. So,
Oh.
um, anyway, so what I was saying is, it's just like there's just there's a piece of what you can't do only online, and it's part of that incarnational
Yep.
ministry, just being present physically and stuff. But that being said, there's a lot that you can do. There's a
Hmm.
lot that you can do. So let's not discount that. So my question to you is, as different states and areas open back up, right? And
Hmm.
they attempt to go back to normal, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Normal's different for everybody, but uh, what are some of the things that you would say to churches trying to go back to normal or
Hmm.
trying to adjust? What do you think are some of the things that you think churches ought to be thinking about as they kind of move together again and
That's a
physically?
great question. I love this question because I've gotten it before in a different way. And the illustration that God gave me about it was with Harry Potter. So I know Harry Potter is probably not the best example because there's some stigma with whether or not we should let our
It's all
kids,
good. It's all
be
good.
involved with that.
My
I love
son
Harry
loves
Potter.
Harry
So
Potter, by the way.
yeah, just shoot me now. But I love Harry Potter. I think he's a great picture of Christ in the resurrection stone and stuff. But anyway, without nerding out, there is such a huge community of, they're called potheads,
Hmm.
of people who love Harry Potter, and they come together for these conventions. And every
Hmm.
time um, they have a convention, a Harry Potter convention or whatever, it's the same nerds that come out every year. They dress up like the main characters, and they have this physical meeting all wrapped around this very um, this book. And when they had the book, when they first cracked it open, they weren't with all these people. They were alone under a
Right.
tree or on a beach reading Harry Potter for the first time by themselves, not knowing that after opening up this book, they were going to run into probably some of their best friends at a convention
Right.
years down the line. And
Right.
that's the same thing that happens with online church. If you create a good online experience that's interactive and powerful and life changing, what is naturally going to happen out of that is people are going to want to see each other. It's just going to happen. When we see a trailer come out for Star Wars, there's a certain number of Star Wars fanatics who cannot wait to dress up and go to the theater. That's what they
Yeah.
live for.
Yeah.
And all the trailer does is pull them together even more. And so these
Right.
online church services are really just trailers for our actual physical meeting.
Hmm.
And I think what one thing that we're thinking through with InstaChurch is, what if we did a convention like once a quarter, and we did online church services, but once a quarter we did this big convention where it's
Hmm.
really cheap and it's everything's free, food, everything, and people just come to worship for like 3 days, get together, maybe even just one day, a one-day event or whatever. But we meet that physical need, and then we go back to reach as many people as we can. Um, yeah, so I think that's what churches need to be thinking through. Like, this is your time to put out as many trailers as possible
Hmm.
that, convicts and like challenges and encourages people to really get involved online, because that's only going to make them want to get together physically. I mean, Comic
So
Con,
yeah.
Video Con, like everything
No.
works that
So
way.
exactly what you're talking about.
Hmm.
Seriously, had the conversation yesterday, right?
Uh-huh.
With Pastor Susie, and he was talking about how they do every year, because they're online, they're on Twitch.
Uh-huh.
Gamers is their main target. And he says every year we do something called Squad Con, because their church is
Whoa.
called God Squad
I've seen
Church.
them. I've seen them
Okay.
on Twitch.
So they do Squad Con, which is where
Uh-huh.
people from all over the world, there's over 3,000 people who are actively kind of engaged,
Hmm.
and they come, I don't know how many come to the squad con, but there's people from all over the world come. They have worship, they have preaching, they have
Come on.
gaming sessions, they've got, all that stuff. And it's like, oh, I recognize what's your username?
Yeah.
And they
Oh,
make that
dude, that is
personal
so cool.
connection. And this year, I think they're still planning on doing it. I don't know when it's going to be. They're kind of like holding it loosely,
Yeah.
um, but that's just one of the things that is very interesting in this online
Mm.
sort of experience, is the ability to kind of do that. Now, you went to something that was centered around a common interest recently. You were invited
Hmm.
to something because
Yes.
you've been
Hmm.
very active on TikTok. And so
Hmm.
you got to go to a TikTok creators
Hmm.
meetup, you know? So tell me about
Yeah.
that. What was that like, man? Because
It's so
okay, so
interesting.
TikTok,
Man.
you've just kind of blown up on TikTok. It's
Yeah.
just the viral uh, thing about that is just crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. Wow, it's so weird. I feel like, I mean, every time we talk, I always feel like we're on the same wavelength. Ever since that one talk in Starbucks that one time. But it's so funny you bring up TikTok because to answer your question first, and then we started like a TikTok church, and it was interesting how that happened. I can't wait to tell you that story. But the meetup was amazing. So, well, it wasn't amazing. I felt really awkward there because I was like one of the
Sure.
only Christian creators. Like,
Right.
there's a lot of
Right.
creators there that were Christian, but I was the only one that made Christian content.
Hmm.
Um, so it was awkward. I was really insecure uh, because I have spent so much time editing, so much time in a room alone with a camera,
Hmm.
being around that many people. I was doing surf lessons. I was doing small group
Right.
meetups, Bible studies, like small things. But being around that many people, I hadn't in a long time, and especially people who I like have seen a lot on the For You page
Right.
and Explore page, like really famous people on the app. And so I was just really self conscious, and but it was a really good experience, and I built a relationship with TikTok through that I am really grateful for. And they just emailed me, and they're going to send me a surprise gift in the mail, and they invited me to a virtual webinar that they're having on April 28th. It's for creators only, and so I created a good relationship with them. And I one of the things I asked the people in charge was, what genre is my content in? And I was thinking like spirituality or even Christianity, because there's a lot of
Hmm.
Christians on the app.
Right.
Like Micah, I know Micah posts on there, and he does. I love his content as well. Um, and so they said education, and I was
Mm.
like interested, and I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, you're teaching people about the Bible, so that's education, spiritual education. It's no, I mean, it is different, but in the world's
Hmm.
eyes, it's no different than a yoga instructor on the app teaching
Right.
them different things about yoga.
Right.
So I thought that was cool. It kind of gave me a target to go for. And then when I got home is when I started doing like, are tattoos a sin? Is it
Hmm.
okay for Christians to game? Like stuff like
Right.
that
Right.
um, is what really, really started to explode me even more.
Yeah.
With that said, Corona hit, and kids were like, I don't have Instagram, so I can't go to your Insta church. And so I put out a lot of videos on my TikTok inviting people to my YouTube church and my
Hmm.
Insta church.
Right.
And they kind of, I mean, they got a lot of views, but on my channel, they like were considered like flops. And what we have found out through just talking to different TikTok employees and stuff is they basically don't like it when you ask people to go to a different app. And so
Yeah. Sure.
anytime you try to promote your own Instagram or your YouTube channel, they're not going to do well,
Hmm.
just because they want you to stay on TikTok, and they want to give you everything you need not to go to anywhere else.
Hmm.
And so with that thought, I was like, okay, I'm going to put out a video saying like I made a TikTok church. So we made an account called TikTok Church Live.
Hmm.
I posted an invite on that account, wondering how the um, algorithm would treat it,
Right.
especially because there is an algorithmic thing with a person's face. So if
Hmm.
I were to, we need to do this, but if I were to do a video with you, Micah, chances are it would probably do better because the TikTok would see my face, and they would know like, oh, that's Alex. Let's show this to more people,
Mm.
and that encourages collaboration as well. Um, so I thought the same thing's going to happen. I'm going to post on this TikTok Church Live page, and that video is going to be shown to a lot of people, and it totally didn't work. It just flopped, like no views.
Mhm.
So I went. I recorded a video on my own page saying, hey, I know you guys don't have Instagram, so here's a TikTok church. Real simple video. Went to sleep. It got like no views. Went to sleep, woke up. The TikTok church live account had 300,000 followers. And that video had 3 million views.
This is
And
crazy.
I was like, what the heck? But the reason why is because TikTok was like, oh, this guy is starting an actual TikTok church account. We love that. And then a week later, I got verified. It's
Crazy.
trippy, dude. So
I mean, to go to sleep with like nothing and to wake up with that is just
it's
mind blowing.
incredible. Yeah. And my account was already doing great. It was already doing good, but there's something about like, we tried to do online church on my Instagram, like an Instagram church service on my page. And then we try to do a TikTok church service on my page. And there's other TikTokers who do that, but there's something about, and my wife helped me understand this, there's something about having a page dedicated to it that is a lot simpler and easier for people to understand. Just because people go to an actual church building, going to an actual TikTok church account page or a God Squad page for a certain type of content, it just makes sense that way.
Right. And so you've got, okay, you guys are broadcasting live, like I feel like all the time. So you've got Instagram Church Live, TikTok Church Live. Do you call it Church Live or just Instagram Church?
We call it, we call it Insta Church.
Insta
but
Church.
They count it Insta Church Live, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So TikTok Church, YouTube Church. Am I missing a platform? Twitch? You guys started streaming to Twitch recently?
We started doing it to Twitch, but I'm pretty sure we're going to shut it down. And I'll probably put out a video telling people to go to God Squad because I'm not a gamer. I don't really fit. You almost need, and on Life Church does this as well. They have a guy who games, and he's gaming. He's got the whole gaming set up with the headphones, everything, and then he'll do like a pre-meetup talk, prayer, whatever, and then he'll play the sermon and the worship from Life Church's online service, and then he comes back at the end. He wraps everything up. That's an interesting way to do it. But just me, we're treating it like it's YouTube. We're treating it like it's Instagram, and it's just not working because I'm not into gaming really at all. If I was, I would have the whole setup and I'd play a couple games and I would maybe do a song with him on my guitar and I would preach and have some Q&A afterwards. That's how I would do it. But we're probably going to shut it down or give the page to a church. And I don't really know who to give that to, but I'd totally be willing to do that. But we have the handle Twitch Church Live. I have a logo that I made for it. I think it all looks really cool. So.
Yeah, because we started, I was just like, when we said we've got to do online services now, like we don't have a choice, right? So we're doing simulated live. It's not live, right? So I'm in the chat feed. I'm talking to people.
Cool. Perfect.
We're encouraging a lot of like, hey, answer this question in the chat, all that kind of stuff, right? But because it's all happening from this garage, like I'm doing everything from this garage. So I have to like pre-record worship with different people because I don't want to be the only person on the feed and all this stuff, right? So we use Ecamm Live and Restream.io. So we restream to YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Periscope, which is a thing. So
awesome.
So that's what we're streaming to, but all of our views are on YouTube and Facebook, pretty much.
Of course,
pretty much. And Facebook is where the chatting is happening. Whereas, the other places, people kind of jump in and out, but there's not a lot of chatting. In YouTube, there's a little bit of chatting, but it's mostly on Facebook, and that's kind of the main place where most of our people are, anyways.
Interesting.
But that being said, like if there was a way for us to do it better, there's a way for us to do it on Instagram, but it's just the simulated live doesn't work very well on Instagram. It's very hard to do that. So that's kind of where we're stuck there.
I do have a website that allows you to do simulated to Instagram. You have to, of course, upload a 1080 by 1920, so story, vertical video shape.
Yeah.
Whether that means you take the horizontal video and you put it on top of a vertical background,
Right.
or you
I've
actually
seen
shoot it
that.
vertical.
I've
But
seen that.
there is a there's a website that I promise I wouldn't share because there was a point where I thought I was gonna do simulated,
Hmm.
and I have done simulated like 2 or 3 times on Instagram Live, and no one knew.
Mm.
I still, even though it was recorded the day before, I still was very engaging on how I talked.
Right.
Like comment Amen if you're with
Right.
me. Turn to your
Right.
Bibles to Mark chapter 2. Comment Mark
Right.
chapter 2 in the comments. Like I was still like very interactive the way I did, so no one knew it was simulated, but I was sitting back watching from my own account.
Right.
It's called OneStream. Yeah, it's called OneStream.live or OneStream.io. But go check that out. It works. It messed up once, and I still don't know what happened, but it worked like 2 or 3 times very well.
Hmm.
Um, and it pins a comment. If you, whatever the title is you upload it into, it pins that as the comment.
Oh,
So
okay.
we would make the title of the video, Welcome, One Song, One Message and Prayer, and today's topic. And it would pin that at the bottom. Um, it worked for the most part. I think one thing that doesn't work is when after the live is done and it reposts, it doesn't repost with comments at the
Oh,
bottom.
okay.
It just reposts with the pin comment, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then sometimes what happens is someone opens up the live and the screen is black, but they can hear the audio. But the only thing to do with that is they need to close the app and open it back up. So it's definitely doable. I would
Right.
say it's one of those things I'm gonna keep is if I'm like totally burnt out or if an emergency happens and I know we're gonna
Right.
be out of town, or if I'm speaking at a conference and I'm gonna miss
Right.
Insta Church, I'm either gonna do Insta Church in my hotel room or I'll use OneStream,
Right.
and just upload it ahead of time so I don't have to worry about it. But I realized that what what I am good at and what just by default from doing this, like just being on the field for a year of doing that, what I'm good at is actually hosting a true live service. And I think that's the DNA of Insta Church and TikTok Church. Of course, TikTok Church, there's no way to, on TikTok, there's no way to upload simulated
Right.
casts to it. But I
And
also would say, I think that's where pastors need to put all of their practice. Live video is going to take over the next decade. I
mm,
know it. So pastors need to be like going live as much as possible, getting comfortable with
right.
hosting a live. I think it'll be so valuable.
Right. And I do sometimes, I'll do like a Friday live on the Facebook, or I'll jump in on
Perfect.
Wednesday or
Yeah,
something. And there's that interaction, and you can talk to people specifically and stuff like that, which is
that's
very
sick.
valuable.
Super.
Sunday, because of the size of our team that's running things,
Mhm.
for us to have uh, pretty good, you know, just the technical aspect of making sure everything's gonna is happening and all that,
Yeah,
it's a beast, and if you want
it
to,
is.
oh man, it can get a little crazy. But
Yeah, it does.
uh, one of the things that's really interesting, because TikTok, I've done a couple of live things on TikTok just on my
Perfect.
personal page, and like I've done just Q&A with people. Hey, you have any questions about Jesus, the Bible, Christianity, whatever,
Mhm.
and had some good conversations. um, but it's like it's a hit and miss for me
Yeah.
whether it's going to um get kind of pushed,
Hmm.
or that people are going to find it. And so sometimes it's like, all right, no one's on, I'm going to shut this down because
Yeah.
I'm not going to wait here for a long time. And and what's really interesting is there's, as far as I know, there's no way to keep that video up. So
Yeah.
on Instagram, you can keep that video up for 24 hours or whatever
Yep.
in your uh, story or whatever. But on TikTok, it's there and it's gone so
Hmm.
far. They may
Yep.
change that, but so that makes me even want to do the live on TikTok even less, because there you have to be
Yes.
in the moment. You
Yeah.
have to be in the moment.
So what we were doing is we were doing all three at once: TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Three different iPhones. Which, going back to the technological aspect, people want real. They don't really care about. I think the only thing that I would say that they would care about is more so audio.
Hmm.
But the reason why we used iPhones is because it's so easy to live stream. And it takes a lot of stress off of us. We just hit play or hit record or whatever, hit live, and it just goes. The quality is not the best, but the majority of our audience is watching on an iPhone,
Mhm.
and not their TVs. And YouTube's quality, when we do stream to YouTube, watching it on TV, it's really not that bad. And it's such a short service, and they can hear us clearly. That's really what matters. And so we love doing it that way. TikTok and Instagram have completely different you know this, completely different cultures. And that's why I think TikTok will never allow us to keep it up for another 24 hours, because the idea of TikTok is keep you on the app. Everything's happening now, right now. So if you're not here right now, you're going to miss it.
Mhm.
This is why, for the most part, there's no timestamps on videos.
Mhm.
They're kind of like weird with timestamps. They really try to hide them,
Mhm.
so that no one knows when you posted a video. It always feels like
Right.
it's right now. And so
Mhm.
their live is with that as well. I think the reason why they pushed out my TikTok church invite video with 3 million views is because TikTok really likes the idea of churches doing live services on their app. They know there's TikTok is so smart. I learned this talking to some of the executives. They know how big Christianity is. They know, and they know how many people are part of the faith. And if they can get them on the app, they'll do whatever they can. So uh, one thing that you can do, in TikTok is people give like their
Right.
tithe through TikTok donations. Um, and so, I mean, it's mainly just kids, but sometimes we'll walk away from service with like $30. And we're like,
Right.
oh, that's like these kids like $3 tithe they're just giving.
Right.
And so TikTok gives you a lot of tools to host a very like live, you had to be here to get it. If not, you're gonna miss it. Type of event on Sunday. And so that's what I like about them. Instagram is wholly focused on marketing. So if you
Mhm.
do a live, there's so much you can do in a live on Instagram. I think you might have seen us do this, but you can uh, you can go live, upload a video from your camera roll that takes up the whole screen. And so we'll make a slide that has the lyrics of a song, and we'll
Mhm.
hit upload, and it'll show that lyrics on the screen while we're live. You can do this all inside the app. You can pull people in and talk to them. So last week, what we did for the intro is we pulled in Insta Church family members and
Oh,
said,
that's
"Hey, where are
awesome.
you watching from? How's it going? Like, where do you, what Bible do you have? Whatever." And we're just talking
Right.
it up, like chatting up, and it makes, even though it's one person, it makes everyone in the chat feel like we're
Oh,
all there
yeah.
together.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing, dude. And
That's
so all
that
that, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say that is a game changer, I think, for
Mhm.
online ministry when you can, almost, you know,
Mhm.
crowd raise some of the content. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, like, for instance, okay, so we did at the top of one of our services, we did "Hold My Hand," the song, just as a
Yeah.
fun opener thing.
That's
But
sick.
we had different, you know, musicians do their parts, and then I put it all
Uh-huh.
together in a video, and so they're all distant, but it's getting different faces on the screen.
That's
They're like,
awesome.
oh yeah, there's so and so, there's so and so, or or things like that. Or a couple last week, I think it was, uh, you know, tell me what you're grateful for. And so people
Mhm.
sent me in clips, and then we just put it all together and showed this is what people are grateful for, and there's people from the church. So it's like bringing different faces in. Now the live, like Instagram, like you can bring someone in. So I did
Yeah.
that like a month ago maybe,
Uh-huh.
and it was like, my son was, or my boys were in bed, my daughter and my wife were out of town,
Uh-huh.
and and I was like, I don't really want to watch anything or whatever. So I started to do a live, just
Uh-huh.
as like a check in and see, anybody had any questions or whatever, on Instagram. And then this guy Chris, who I know is a college pastor from Texas, he was in there, and I was like, hey man, you want to jump in? And so we had like an hour and a half live, like, interview with people
Wow.
watching, just about, because it was all like COVID was just starting in the US,
Mhm.
shutdowns were being threatened. Like, we were talking about what is this going to mean for your college ministry, all this kind of stuff. And it was so off the cuff and just spontaneous, but I had a lot of fun doing it. I was like, man,
That's
I got to do
awesome.
this more, because people were jumping in like with questions and stuff. And I was like, man, this is awesome. I
That
love
is so
this.
sick. And that's what it's for. I mean, and it's all marketing. Like Instagram gives you all the tools you need, because they want to, like, whatever you want to get people to, they want to help you do that. So, for example, because I went live with those kids and I screenshotted it and I posted it, now a lot more people want to go to church on Sunday because they're like, wow, they bring people into their life, they talk to kids, and it's all marketing. I mean, if the end goal is to get people to come to your actual conference or come to your church and to get one of your books or whatever, and you use the tools that Instagram gives you, they through live, it's gonna get people in the door.
Right.
It just is, because your most devoted followers are going to watch your live. There's people I follow, they go live, I don't watch it because I don't really care.
Hmm.
But there's
Right.
people, there's people who do jump into your live. Those are your newsletter people. Those are the people who are opening your email newsletter. Those are the people listening to your podcast. Those are your most devoted people. And that's why it's so important to go live, because every time you
Hmm.
go live, if it's 10 people, those 5 to 10 people are on board with your mission.
Right. It's a very personal experience at that point.
Totally, man. Totally.
Now, I think what could make a game changer,
Hmm.
right, is if Instagram would allow somehow for you to like let another device take over your stream for a portion. Do
Mm.
you know what I mean? So like instead of it being split screen and you're invited in, it's like, hey,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to let you take control of my screen for the next 2 minutes, and you lead us in a song.
Whoa,
And
that'd
so
be
then
crazy.
you've got
Yeah.
then you've got the ability to have worship leaders or guest speakers from around the world
Yeah.
involved and they don't have to be on your camera. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, they could do I think what they could do is just even allow it, instead of it being split screen,
Yeah.
um
Just make it
treat it
full,
more like an actual true like FaceTime, where the host
mhm,
is like really small in
small
the corner and then the guest is real big. Man, that'd be sick. I guarantee they'll do it.
at some point, right? At
Yeah,
some
I think
point.
they're gonna do it. It's just it's so fun, dude. I mean,
So
Instagram
tell
just
me
gives
this.
you so
So I
much.
know Easter, right?
Uh-huh.
Like leading up to Easter and with COVID, like you guys were like, hey, we're the only uh COVID safe church. um and 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 so leading up to Easter, you guys were having, I think, record numbers for you guys of like
Yeah,
people coming into the stream. So tell me about that. Like for each, I
yeah,
guess, platform, what is that like?
yeah. YouTube was the lowest. YouTube was about like 200 people consistently throughout it, but YouTube is a little bit different. We get a lot of like rewatches.
Hmm. Yeah.
So a lot of people watch it afterwards, and those
Hmm.
numbers get up to like 2,000 um, views on YouTube. But Instagram and TikTok were both over like 1,200. Instagram was over like 1,500 the whole time, and then TikTok Church was like 1,200. Yeah, interesting,
Wow.
crazy.
And so
Yeah, and
you
then of course the rewatch.
are you still doing 3 phones, or are you doing, because you're doing it staggered times? Are you doing a staggered time now? Or are you doing it?
We decided because different church campuses have different cultures. TikTok Church and Insta Church and YouTube are like that too. So because there's different types of people that go to each church service, and
Mhm,
because of the tools that are given or are not given on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, it made sense for us to just do 3 different services. So we just use one
mhm.
phone, um, and we go live different times. A lot of people go to all 3 services and watch all of them, which I've done
Well, they're
before at a physical church.
right, so but they're pretty short.
Yeah, they're
So
all 20
it's
minutes.
very
Yeah.
very easy to do that.
Yep.
Very easy
Totally.
to do that
Hmm.
because it's like it's not an hour. So you're not
No,
doing 3
exactly.
hours. It's not like the old time church where you go 3 4 hours and then the potluck and then you got like another session.
Oh, dude, I remember those days.
You know what I mean? So
Heavy. I remember those days all too well.
so you mentioned this before.
Uh-huh.
You guys would identify as more of a parachurch ministry than,
Hmm.
legally, than a church
Hmm.
legally.
Hmm.
Um, yet many people will treat you as their church.
Yep.
And you mentioned, you got a lot of kids coming on because they don't have transportation, they don't have
Yeah.
supportive parents, they don't have whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and they can give through TikTok through the little give live icons and the little, I
Hmm.
can't remember what they're called.
You can
Um,
give through all three, actually. I mean, we haven't done it yet because there's some loopholes we have to jump through, but you can donate to any nonprofit of your choice on Instagram. And then YouTube has something called Super Chat. So it's the same
yeah.
idea as TikTok gift donations. You can just give live. Twitch, you can give live too. So it's crazy. It's
So
all
I
there.
remember going on TikTok and someone donated something like, "What the heck is this?" And then I'm like, I'm like, "Oh man, this is a thing." And then I started seeing it on other people's, and I started watching some of I think it's Jason Coffey's lives just to get a
Oh
feel
yeah.
of.
Yeah.
So he's always live, and
He's the king.
it's so crazy because he and his family are doing TikTok all day long, like every day. I feel like
Oh, it's their main thing.
it's their thing. Yeah,
Totally.
it's their thing, and they live in Hawaii. I don't even know what
Yeah.
island,
On Big
but
Island.
they write the names of their followers on some wall somewhere, and so people
Uh-huh.
like love seeing their names somewhere,
Yep.
and and they cover the walls with it, and then he does lives where he's just sitting around and he's like, "Oh hey, at so and so, great to see you. Oh
Hmm.
hey," it's simply saying "oh hey" to their name, and that's about it. That's
That's
about
it.
it.
Yep.
And they're giving like these gifts like constantly, and he's like, "Oh,
Yep.
everybody go follow so and so because they're so awesome and so generous." I'm like,
Yep.
what? Like, why is this entertaining? Why is this so
Yeah. And you
attractive
can't pull away. You cannot
to
pull away from it.
thousands of people
Oh yeah.
every time?
Yep.
Every time. And I'm just like, this is crazy. And he seems like a really nice guy.
Oh, he is. They're
Um,
believers. They're strong
yeah,
believers.
I
He
got
reached
that.
out to me one
I
time.
got that impression, but I didn't know
Mhm.
that for sure. But you know
Yeah.
how you can kind of so.
Yeah.
And then he's put out some music, which is cool.
Uh-huh.
Which so, anyways, I just find that whole thing fascinating. It's just fascinating. What a
It is,
crazy
man.
world we
I
live
mean,
in.
people are walking, guys like Jason Coffey are walking away with thousands after those sessions.
Right.
So it's just, I mean, it's another reason why TikTok really believes in their creator community. They want their creators to keep creating.
Right.
And so they do stuff like that so that it's possible. I wouldn't. They've dropped the price too. They've made it not so lucrative.
Hmm.
But I think they'll change that in the future. Once more brands start to really work with TikTok, I think they'll make it more like a Cash App thing and not so much like uh, 60/40 or 70/30, whatever it is right now. But I think they're going to start to let more of the proceeds actually go to them. I
Right.
think they'd have to partner with like Venmo or Cash App or something. Like Spotify's doing that right now.
Hmm.
They're partnering with Cash App, and I think it'd be cool to see if TikTok could partner with Venmo or something like that, so creators could actually keep more of the gifts that they're getting. Um, but
Right.
yeah, it's fascinating, dude. It's crazy.
I would have to hit the threshold first before I could
Yeah,
give.
totally.
Anyway, now let's talk about that for a second because
Yeah.
you know y- you got a family to support,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
you're out here being very entrepreneurial and
Hmm.
also giving away, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So much of your time, energy, focus to
Mhm.
these platforms. Now, you mentioned,
Mhm.
we may come away with $30 from one platform or whatever
Yeah.
as a tithe. Now,
Yeah.
that's great because that'll get you Taco Bell for your whole family.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but you got to support the family. So
Yeah.
how are you guys supported? Do you have people
Yeah.
donators? Do you have or do you have like big donors who, maybe not big, but you have people
Mhm.
who donate to what you're doing? And I know you have your surf instructor, right?
Yeah, I actually, that's a good question. I actually quit surf instructing right
Okay.
before COVID because I had a lot of speaking engagements. Oh, hold
Uh-huh.
on. I had a lot of speaking engagements lined up. So I quit, and I was like, I just got a manager, and she has been working with brands with me.
Okay.
She negotiated a thing with Lifeway, and so we did some videos with them. So I was like, yeah, like brands are reaching out to me finally. Like this is what I've been working towards for 8 years. And then I was like packing my bags, ready to go, and everything shut down. And so
Hmm.
we were like, oh shoot, what are we gonna do? And we just really just been living by faith. And there has been a couple people who've donated. Um, Honestly, we're basically living off the stimulus package thing that we got.
Hmm.
So we use that for rent, and we're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. I mean, there's some pretty heavy duty emails I've gotten um, through record labels who want me to use some of their artists' music, and they pay really good. That's how the big TikTokers are making all their money.
Gotcha.
A person like Justin Bieber's record label reaches out to a big TikToker and says, "Can you make 5 songs with Justin's new song?
Hmm.
We'll pay you 10 grand or whatever." And so I'm not going to get paid that
Right.
much by no means, but that would really like change our life. So I've
Right.
gotten 2 of those emails, and my manager is working super hard to try to figure out what we should price them. Um, but I really like the idea of that. Just not for the money side, but I really like what I do, and I really want to create it. I
Yeah.
really want to keep doing the church lives,
Hmm.
and so having the money to do that is going to be huge. But right now, our bank account is scary. But I mean, everyone's is right now with COVID and everything. So I know we're not alone, and God's going to keep take care of us, not let the righteous be forsaken, and it'll be good.
Right. Right. And I think that there probably are some people who,
Mhm.
really believe in what you do, who would
Yes.
who would if they knew, they would probably help you. They
Yeah.
would give, not sympathy help, but like they would
Yeah. Of
support,
course.
you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So how would people do that if they felt like they had money to give and they'd
Mhm.
like you to have it to continue the ministry and continue doing it? How would they go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, uh, I mean, I think it's one of those things we have not because we ask not, and I don't tell people. Like, I need to tell people what the state of our finances is with everything, and how many people we're reaching. Because there's a lot. I mean, I have at the least I have 6,000 DMs, and I will never get to them. I'm gonna have to delete them because I'll never
Wow.
will be able to get to them. But they're all questions like everywhere on the map.
There's probably a lot of those that are common questions though, right?
Yeah,
So
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
common
like,
ones.
so
Hmm.
you'll be able to answer it and it'll answer 50 of them.
Yep,
So
exactly.
there's that also.
Yep. Yeah, and just the way to give, we have a website called churchlive.info.
Mhm.
Um, and it's very simple, churchlive.info, and there's really nothing on the website other than the link to our podcast and the link to be able to give or to get merch. So we have like shirts that say amen on them, and it's
Right.
like a graphic that I found on the internet, and or not a graphic, but a typography that I found, a font that I like. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's really simple, and that's basically it. All the proceeds go to allowing us to keep the Wi-Fi on, to pay for gear, because you and I both know how gear can get expensive,
Yeah.
um, but also allow us to just pay our rent too, because
Yeah,
this
I'm
is what
looking
we
at
do
some.
full time.
I've been debating like a piece of gear for 3 weeks now. I'm
What
like,
is
"Oh,
it? What
man."
is it?
It's a small digital board. It's a Zoom L12,
Uh
and
huh.
it's a soundboard so that you can record multi-track audio specifically for our music, like when we do worship
Right.
for online. And
Yeah.
so I'd love to be able to record multi-track into Premiere or Audition, and
Uh
then
huh.
be able to sync all the video and stuff, so that we have higher quality sound. Because right now I'm
Yeah.
just using different, pieces of
Of
equipment that I
course.
have that
Yeah.
can pick up
Of course.
sound, but it peaks at times or it's a little funky at times. And so I'd like to
Yeah.
be able to have consistent sound. But anyway, so that's been I've been like
Yeah.
debating it because gear, I mean, there's always another thing,
Oh,
but
dude.
I'm like, man, this would just amp up our worship time so much better, and then there's other applications for it because sometimes we do
Yeah.
small venue,
Hmm.
little worship things. And
Hmm.
so that's built for like small venue stuff too.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, well, there's a lot of purposes for this. And but anyway, so it's like, I know what you're talking
Dude,
about. Like the gear thing, there's
honestly,
always something.
I would say just get it because
I know, right?
my experience is first of all, as a creator, you're going to justify what's better because as a creator, you want to put out the best stuff. And so you're going to justify it at some point. So just get it. And it's like,
I know, right?
it's whatever's going to frustrate you less because the idea is reaching people. And so if getting a certain camera, I just bought this and I didn't have the money necessarily to get it, but the Joby Gorilla Pod
Mhm.
always breaks. The legs pop out
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they fall over. And so I got this switch pod thing, and it's just a really easy way to hold my
Yeah.
camera when I'm
Totally.
recording a TikTok. And it's just so simple. If I have to just like put it down real quick and just start recording, I can just do
Boom.
it. And whatever makes it easier, whatever makes you less frustrated as a creator, just get it. God will take care of you because you're not buying it just to flex on other creators. You're buying
Right.
it to help people. So
Right.
if you can make the audio better, just do it. I know I'm just
That's
justifying you right now.
I know. Well, the problem is, like, I've debated through 3 different boards now. So, like,
Yeah,
first it was
yeah,
Rodecaster Pro, but then I'm like, "Oh, that's not good enough for music." Like,
yeah,
they don't have
exactly.
enough for music there. And then I was like, "Okay, how about the Zoom L8?" But then I started thinking about all the channels I need, and I'm like, "Oh,
Oh yeah,
I need to go to the 12." So it's just like, but the
yeah.
funny thing is the Rodecaster Pro and the 12 are the same price. So it's like,
Mhm.
whatever.
What I
And
love
now
too about I mean, there's gear that I bought that I have either broken or I just don't use anymore, and I don't regret it because I have mastered a piece of gear that
right.
someone else hasn't mastered yet. And every time you like can master something in the creative world and you understand something, you're at the table. So if you
Mhm.
go to a VidCon, you go to a conference, or you sit down with a pastor and he says, "I'm about to buy this, 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 and this," you're like, "No, no, 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 don't buy that."
Right.
And so every time I bought in gear, I've just been grateful. Even if I don't use it anymore, the knowledge is like just so valuable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I was in student ministry, and
Uh-huh.
I was at a church that bought a peach packing plant at the time
Oh,
and
heavy.
renovated it, right?
Uh-huh.
And they had one of the buildings, they created like a youth center, right? So there
Uh-huh.
was a production guy in town who went to the church, who was friends with the pastor, and so he donated a bunch of gear.
Oh,
Like it's kind of it wasn't like a it's yours, it was like a you can use it for as
yeah.
long as you. So he put in all these moving lights, this trussing, like brought in this big lighting board,
Whoa.
and like we got a sound system and all this stuff, and he used theatrical curtaining to make the room
Oh,
appropriate
sick.
in size, all this stuff. Huge install. But again, I was I was the guy, so I had to know
Uh-huh.
everything, right? So
Uh-huh.
then he brought in his tech guys over like a 2 days over a weekend and just
Uh-huh.
downloaded everything to me. Like, how do you program the lights
Oh,
on this old analog board with a 3.5 disc? Like, how do you program scenes into it? And I'm so
jeez.
thankful that I have that
Yeah.
behind me and I understand some of that because it's helped me in so many different times
Oh,
when if I
dude.
didn't have that experience, I would be like pulling out my hair, watching thousands of
Yep.
hours of YouTube, trying to figure it out.
Yep.
And I'm just thankful that I have that. Same thing going for like when our church bought a new digital soundboard. We went from analog to
Mm-hmm.
digital. I
Oh,
had to
good.
learn how to route it. I had to learn how to do everything. So I watched tons of YouTube and learned it. And then, I teach it to people as they start volunteering and stuff, but
Uh,
it's a blessing and a curse. It's the curse of
oh,
knowledge, right? Because then you know
yep.
it and you're the guy if something happens. Then it's a blessing because you know that you can deal with it if something happens. So
Totally.
it's two
Man,
sides of the same coin.
no, I'm with you, dude. It's the pastors who are like you that know that stuff and the or the pastors who have a good relationship with their tech guy,
Right.
uh, that are gonna thrive. I met this kid. No one talked to him at all.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like he was just like kind of not like he wasn't shy. He's a very confident kid, but he just kept to himself. He just he didn't he chooses his words very wisely, and so he'd never like really spoke up unless he had something to say. So I knew he was the tech guy only because he sat at the soundboard all day. And this is when the church is empty throughout the week. And so I was looking at my youth group. It was like 30 kids. And I was like, this isn't a youth group I'd want to go to. This is boring. And so I was like, I got to make it just better and bigger. And so I downloaded like this DJ app, and like I made a playlist, and I found a way to sync everything at the same BPM. And so this is how detailed my youth group was at the time. Every song that ever played was played at 140 BPM. So it was just like this like thumping, constant, like
driving.
just pounding. Yeah, just driving force of just high energy from the moment you got out of your car. And he showed me how to do that. And then he got me a bunch of lights. I was like, how do I get lights in here? How do I make it better? So he put out a ton of lights. Then he pulled out a haze machine, like everything. He just transformed my room. And I was the 5th and 6th grade pastor. So the middle school pastor and the high school pastor and my boss ended up coming up to me and saying, you have to dial it back. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're making the other ministries look so bad. And their kids are not going to want to go to youth group. They're not going to want to go to middle school, and they're not going to want to go to high school. They're going to want to stay with you. Yeah. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I can't dial it back. We went from 30 to 130 kids in a month. And it was just, I mean, I would have to make parents leave. Everyone loved to be there because it was such this like high energy. And of course, like it just exploded, and it hasn't gone back. It's still huge. And it's all because of Tyler Moore. He's our tech guy, and he actually moved to Hawaii. He's on the board of Insta Church, and he was there the first service. He ended up getting a job as a tech director in Oahu. And so me and him talk every day. We're finally back on the same time zone. And everything that you see tech-wise behind Insta Church has all been Tyler. Like everything. We wouldn't have Insta Church if it wasn't for him.
Right.
Or it wouldn't be where it's at. So just have a good relationship either with your kids who know tech or your tech director. Right. It's the most valuable thing you could do, I'm telling you.
Our production team, when we have live services in person, right? Is Donnie, and he's like our staple guy, right?
Yeah.
And then we have teenagers who rotate through. That's it. Huge. And then I'm running the soundboard a lot during music. It's crazy. We're always like running back and forth.
That's so heavy.
Teenagers.
Yeah.
It's a good way to include them, especially when you're portable and you don't have like a separate youth service and that sort of thing. It's a great way to engage them. Here's a question I want to ask you, because when I went to your live videoing of Insta Church Live, you had like, I feel like there was like 10 people there, right? You had like this team. You had like someone reading the screen and putting up, like writing names of people for you to read and say. And you had like the video guy, and you had your friend who was leading worship, and you had, just cheerleaders there, right? And now you've got you, your wife, and your kids from what I can see, from what I can tell, now the team is real small in terms of who is pulling off the actual thing.
Totally.
Right? I understand you have a board and different stuff like that, but so talk about that, like going from that team to really downscaling your team. Has that been hard? Was that, tell me about that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have to understand that as creators and pastors, people, what they really want is to connect with us. And people want to follow Micah Foster. They want to see Micah's vlogs. They want to like connect with the pastor. And every time you think of a church, you think of the pastor. Whether it's Elevation, you think of Stephen. Transformation, you think of Mike Todd. And the person that everyone wants to connect with, unless they have like a banging band, which is kind of Hillsong's culture, and Elevation somehow got that culture too, and Bethel as well. But Transformation doesn't have that culture at all. And so it's kind of unique to the church. But for the most part, even Mosaic doesn't even, in LA, they don't even have that culture. They have a great band, but none of us really care about connecting with the band members. We just want their music. So we kind of had that realization that, sorry, there's a gecko in my office. We had that realization that people love David's voice, but everyone that watches InstaChurch, they are there for the preaching. They want to hear the word of God. And so they didn't really, they're my followers. They found me from the videos that I put out, the short sermons. And so they want to connect with me and my family. And so we realized, like, you know what, we can't sing. We don't have a good voice, but I can play guitar, and people aren't sitting back singing with us anyway. They want to just have a worship as a little transitional piece to get into the message. And they still want to hear an encouraging song, I think, for the most part, but we just realized they really just don't care if it's really good worship or not. They just don't. And so we're like, you know what, we could bring David in through the Instagram, through the FaceTime thing, but we realized, you know what, they're not going to miss the worship. As far as having people hold up the screens and stuff like that, we just realized we could dial all that back and just make it more natural and make it more personal, and not make it feel produced. And I don't know if there will ever come a day. And I got this idea from John Mayer. John Mayer does a live show called Current Mood.
Okay.
If you are a church person and you want to do Instagram church, I would encourage you to go watch his live show. He reposts them, but the way he does it is he does everything. I mean, they have really good lights, really good audio.
Right. Sure.
But as far as all the technical stuff that goes into it, like him like bringing people in, or him calling out people, or telling jokes, or doing different segments of his show, it's a lot like a live show like Jimmy Fallon. He does it all himself right there on the camera. And when someone goes like this, if you're watching on YouTube, and like reaches out and touches the screen to push a button on the screen, or, you know, to switch the camera angle, it feels like I'm reaching out to that person. So we had this idea that if we were way far away from the camera, framed up nicely, we're standing up, we got our microphone, we're doing our things, we're creating an experience that is not personal with them. And so even recently we ditched the mic because the microphone it almost felt too much like church. Like it felt too much like there's something in between me and Alex. Instead of us getting close, like you can see all my nostrils and I'm pushing the screen, like people like that. It's more personal. And so we realized, you know what, people don't care if babies cry in the background or if our kids are misbehaving. They want to see all of it. So we just dropped it all. In today's culture, the more personal and in control you are, the more professional you seem. People come to InstaChurch and it feels so thought out. It feels like a well-packaged thing because I'm so in control of how personal it is and the way that I'm talking. So comment where you're watching from. Welcome, everyone. Hey, if you are in the East Coast, what time is it where you are? Let us know what your favorite emoji, comment your favorite emoji or the last recent emoji that you've seen. And do this for me, guys. People are going to come in late. So Mark chapter 2, put that on the screen. So if anyone comes in late, they can see where we are. We are going to sing one song, one message. It's a short song. So sing along with us, or you can keep commenting, talking back with each other. Let's jump into the song. And so it's so, like, I'm in such control of the chat and the community that even though it's not good quality, even though the audio probably sucks, they don't care because they feel like this is like really for them. And that's what makes it feel professional. And going back with John Mayer, if you watch John Mayer's thing, it's filmed on an iPhone, crappy video quality, but he is so in love with the idea of what he's doing. It feels so thought out. So people just don't care.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite quotes from Trey Van Camp, who's like the vlog pastor king.
Yeah.
And he says that personal is better than professional. And that's kind of his line. So
I love it.
He'll be on a future episode. But anyway, man, I really appreciate you taking a good chunk of your day with me now. And I know you got a lot going on. You got things you got to produce and things you got to think up and write out. And one of the things I think you're really good at is you take like every single illustration known to every youth pastor ever known, and then you put it online, and people are like, "Oh my gosh," And I think that's great. I think that's great. Like I think the one that I think got a lot of people that I remember seeing is like putting the candle behind the glass. Anyway, but there's a lot of stuff, and they're short and they're poignant and they're like, it makes people think. I think that's really good. Well, I really appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing. Appreciate you taking your time to talk with me about some things, and you're helping me think through things, because I know that the church, when we're all able to go back to
Mhm.
normal, church is gonna look different if
Mhm.
we've got our ear to the ground, if we're paying attention. Church is going to shift in some way. I'm just
Yep.
trying to figure out what is that way and how can we
Yeah.
adapt best, and
Mhm.
what's going to bring the most glory to God.
Yeah.
And I don't think doing things exactly as we've done them for the past 100 years or whatever is going to do that. So
Nope.
I think we've
Yeah.
got to shift. There's got to be a shift, and I'm trying to figure out what that is. So I'm talking to a lot of people who are in the
Yeah.
midst of it and doing something different than normal. So thanks, man.
That's so good, because no, I love talking to you. So I'll talk to you all day if I could. No, just new wineskins. Like, if the kingdom of God is like new wine, it wants to expand because it's alive. And so if we put it into an old wineskin, the old practices of church are going to pop, they're going to burst. And so we have to pour the kingdom of God into new things like online video, like online sermons, because the kingdom of God wants to expand everywhere. The kingdom of God didn't just want one generation, it wants every generation. So the more we get comfortable with pouring the new wine of the kingdom into new wineskins, the more the kingdom of God is just going to grow and flourish and bring joy to the world. So I would challenge you to upload a service completely to Restream and throw it up on YouTube and the other platforms, Periscope, everything. But do one service like on an iPhone.
Mhm.
Don't tell anyone. I mean, just randomly just do one service just on an iPhone. Just no microphone, just good lighting and an iPhone and you and a worship leader, and just try it one day and talk to people in the chat, answer people's questions, say hey to them, and just get a feel for it. And I know it'll be, even if you don't do it every Sunday, it'll be a refreshing thing for you guys to do.
Sure.
And it'll just be a lot of fun. It'll be super
That
fun
sounds like,
because iPhones are only going to get better. The streaming
yeah,
quality of
I
iPhones
know.
are only going to get better.
I know.
Yep.
I know. And it really sounds like something that I could really see us doing, kind of off Sunday morning,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
like,
totally.
hey, we're going to have this living room worship thing, and it's just going to be,
Perfect.
and it's because we do those things every once in a while, just in person. We'll just
Mhm.
invite whoever over to a house and we'll have a living
Perfect.
room worship night. But
Yeah.
if we just didn't invite them to a house and just said, hey, we're going to do it on Instagram,
Yeah.
that could be really interesting.
Do it. That'd
But
be awesome.
I'm gonna need that board to make sure I got a good sound. So,
Get it, man.
hey man, God bless you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's from the
Love you.
Garoffice, from my Garoffice to yours, to your
Yes.
carport in Hawaii. I'm gonna go look up some flights to Hawaii right now.
Do it,
Right. All right. God
please.
bless you, man. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
brother.
I'll see you later.
Much
Peace.
love.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I love what Alex is doing and his family are doing on Instagram to reach people who cannot or will not come to a physical church location. And if you want to connect more, just follow this podcast wherever you're listening, or press subscribe on YouTube, and you'll see all the future episodes. God bless you, and I hope you have a great day.